now available in paperback and e-readers. Isis, Bride of Dracula. The Goddess Next Door and John Haynes team up to take on the Dark Vampire with this action-packed Isis series adventure. Get Isis, Bride of Dracula in paperback and e-readers at online booksellers today. I was watching a Diversity in Comics video, and he was talking about how some of these comic creators are going out of their way to alienate comic fans and attack them, not understanding where their money is coming from. Now, when it comes down to some of these comic creators, they believe that they are going to try to turn comics into a niche product, and they're going to try to appeal to a small group of readers. Now, as an independent publisher myself, I can tell you that's a wrong move, because when I go out here and I publish books, I publish them for everyone, and anyone who wants them can go out and buy them, because as an independent publisher, I want to get to the largest audience possible, and I want to create content that appeals to everyone. While my core market is African American readers, I don't have a problem with readers from all over the world picking up my products, and readers all over the world have picked up my products. I've had readers in the UK, Europe, France, Canada, Australia, Mexico, even in Japan, picking up SJS Direct titles, and I've interacted with people all over the world who have picked up my products. In fact, I'm very happy to see that my products have gone beyond my core audience of African Americans, and that more people are reading about fantasy featuring African American characters, because it shows me that people all over the world, when they see a good story, are going to read it regardless of the character's race. However, the small group of comic creators believe that having that type of fan base isn't a good thing. I would love to have 100,000 people picking up an Isis series book. I would love to have 50,000 people picking up an Isis series book. I would even love to have 10,000 people pick up an Isis series book, or any of the other books in the SJS Direct catalog, like the Spinsterella, Spellbound, or the Thetas, or any of the other titles in the SJS Direct catalog, because that means I would be expanding my reader base. What many of the people in this small group really don't want to deal with is the customer service issue related to dealing with those customers. And the customer service issue means you're going to have to sit there and read letters, and you're going to have to take feedback from those readers. And that's something that I have no problem with, but these guys have a problem with, because they don't want to take constructive criticism from those readers, and they don't want to try to do things to appeal to those readers. And that's something anyone would do in a business. And this is the big problem with that small group of comic book creators, is that they don't understand that publishing is a business, and you are in business to make money. The reason why you are allowed to write these characters is because you are working on a commercial product. And when you're working on a commercial product, you have to make a product that appeals to the customer. This is something that some of these comic creators don't understand, is that you are working at a company, Marvel, on a commercial character like Spider-Man, Captain America, Iron Man, the Hulk, and Thor, because your goal is to sell these characters in stories to the customer, and that you have to answer to the customer. Your goal is to create these commercial stories to appeal to a wide and large audience of readers. These guys want to take commercial characters and then turn them into something like an indie character or a niche character, and they're comfortable with making 5,000 sales, but that's not how the business of commercial comics is run. The business of commercial comics is about selling to the largest audience and reaching a larger audience of readers. That's why they are paying you the big dollars. If you are working indie, yes, you could do the niche things. However, there's a trade-off with working on a niche product, and that trade-off is you don't get to make as much money. As an independent publisher, I can tell you firsthand that while I'm allowed to make whatever characters I want, I don't really have that much money. And if it wasn't for people donating money to me, or me getting money from Kickstarters, I would not have money to be able to release books with professional covers from artists like Bill Walko and many others out here. And in some cases, I have to put books on, I have to delay the release of books because I just don't have the money to pay for the book covers to go on the cover to release those books. And that's something some of these comic creators don't understand, is that you have Marvel's resources at your fingertips. And you're just taking those resources for granted, because when it comes down to publications, it costs a lot of money for them to go out here and make these comics. I mean, it costs money to create these, to pay the artist per page for that book. It costs money to print these books, and it costs even more money when these books don't sell, because when publishing, 90% of titles take a loss. And it's only a matter of time before Disney, the owner of Marvel Comics, gets tired of taking losses. And this is what many of this small group don't understand, is that, again, publishing is a business, and a business has to make a profit. If a business does not make a profit, they can't continue producing product. And they can't continue to support people who don't produce products that make sales. So if you don't make the sales, they're going to have to fire you. So this is something that people in this small group don't understand. They think that because Disney is going to continue to fund Marvel, they're eventually going to reach a point where they're going to say to themselves, the cost of these magazines is not costing out profit-wise, and we're going to have to wind up shuttering the division. Yes, they'll keep the characters for licensing purposes, but as it relates to the publishing division, they're going to get rid of that, because they're going to say to themselves, this is not making money in the way we need it to make. And the way these guys are spending money is leading to the decline of Marvel Comics as a business. Instead of taking these characters seriously and taking their craft seriously, they're playing with it, trying to turn it into a fiefdom, not understanding that publishing is a very shaky business, and it's not the most profitable of businesses overall. 90% of books in trade publishing don't make a profit, and it's the 10% that make money that cover the 90. And when you have people like pushing these social justice agendas, that number goes from 90% to 95% and even 99%, and then you have 1% of books trying to pay for the other 99, and when you have your business model like that, it's not going to survive. So you can't turn commercial comics into a niche product, because it's a commercial product. Commercial products are meant to appeal to the largest audience possible. I would love to see Marvel go back to selling 100,000 and 200,000 comics like it did when I was a teenager back in high school, because back then you had comics that were selling mid-list titles like Iron Man and Captain America who were selling 200,000 units. And even after the crash of the 90s, you still had books that were selling better than they are today. And as an independent publisher, I can tell you that the numbers that they have right now, those are terrible numbers to have for a business, because those numbers that they're having now, 14,000, 15,000, those numbers are showing us that no one outside of a small group of people are buying comics, and that number is not enough to sustain your costs, your print costs, your distribution costs, and the cost of the labor on these comics, because the cost of those people, those costs have to be paid for, and you can't afford to break even in the publishing game. You need to pull a profit, because there are things that will lead to you having losses, like spoiled copies. You would have to eat those, or you would have to eat any sort of book that winds up where the distributor is not getting any orders for it. So for you to just sit there, for these guys not to understand the business aspect of it, that's just sad. Because to sit there and say that you have a guy like Axel Alonso and Tom Beverett up there talking about, you know, we're going to make comics into a niche, not understanding that this is a business and your goal is to make as much money possible, you should be making products to appeal to as many customers as possible. When I go out here with the SJS Direct imprint, yes, I want to create positive stories featuring African American characters. However, I try to make stories that appeal to the largest audience possible. And again, I have had white people buy my products. I've had Hispanic people, Asian people. I've had foreign people in countries like the UK, France, Australia, Germany, all over the world, Japan and Australia buying my books. And I've had no problem with them buying my books because, again, I want the largest audience possible. And if I could get any of the sales that Marvel had back in the day or even today, I would appreciate those sales because I value my customers and I really appreciate them taking the time to go out and buy my products. Moreover, if they send me letters like one man did for one of my Simp Trilogy books, I am grateful for getting that feedback from those customers, and I appreciate getting that feedback from my customers. I remember one customer sent me an email on one of my ISIS series books, and they pointed out some of the errors that were in the book, and I went back and I corrected those and I uploaded them. Again, I didn't get mad at the customer. I went to correct the situation. And this is something that is sorely lacking at Marvel these days, is good customer service and appreciation of the people for taking the time to go out and spend money on your products, because they don't have to spend money on your products. When I look at the people who buy my SJS Direct catalog, I appreciate every dollar that they spend with me, and I appreciate every dollar that people donate to me, because that shows how much they care about the products and how much they care about the work that I am doing. And it's sad that we're seeing people who work at Marvel who don't have any appreciation for the characters in their catalog or the products that they produce. They think they're producing products for them, not understanding that when you're in business, you produce products for the customer, and you have to show respect to the customer when they're out here buying your products and supporting your products. And when they're out there, they're doing that because they like the product, and that's a good thing. You don't want people walking away from you. You want to have more people developing a word of mouth, because word of mouth is what's going to get you more readers, more customers, and make you more money, because this is a business and your goal is to make the most profits possible. Unfortunately, there's a small group of people at Marvel and in the comic book industry who don't understand that publishing is a business. It's a very risky business, and if you're not, and 90% of books fail, and you don't want to be in that 90%, you want to be in that 10%, because if you're in that 10%, you are a success as a writer or an artist, and you're going to be building a following that's going to take you to the next level. And as long as you don't mess things up, you can go higher, and going higher is a good thing. If you want to try some of the SJS Direct Universe titles like the ISIS series, the E-Steam series, The Temptation of John Haynes, or you want to try some of the other titles in the SJS Direct catalog like Spinsterella, Spellbound, or the Thetas, you can click on the link to Amazon.com in the description box. And if you want to help me get out the SJS Direct 2017 catalog, which has been delayed due to a lack of money for the covers, you can donate to my Patreon by clicking the link in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.